friends, today we are going to discuss one of the important topic about uronic acid pathway, otherwise called glucuronic acid pathway. Uronic acid pathway. Uronic acid pathway. It is otherwise called glucuronic acid pathway. Glucuronic acid pathway. It is one of the important carbohydrate metabolism. In last class or previous class, we have discussed about glycogenesis, glycogenolysis, hexose monophosphate shunt. Just like to that, this is one of the important carbohydrate metabolism. But only important point with respect to this glucuronic acid metabolic pathway is it is an alternate pathway of glucose oxidation. We have discussed in hexose monophosphate shunt that it is an alternative pathway for glycolysis and TCA cycle. That means Krebs cycle. The same here also, but a bit different. Here it is an alternative oxidative pathway for glucose. And most importantly, it involves the synthesis of glucuronic acid. Glucuronic acid, pentoses, ascorbic acid. That means vitamin C. Vitamin C. Glucuronic acid, pentoses, and ascorbic acid. These are the three essential components synthesizing in the uronic acid pathway. The name glucuronic acid because it synthesizes glucuronic acid. I will tell you what is the significance of glucuronic acid. Then pentoses like xylulose. In last class we discussed about different pentoses in hexose monophosphate shunt, but same here but a bit different. These pentoses are also synthesized in uronic acid pathway. And most unique feature is in some animals it also synthesizes. That means it is an essential pathway for synthesis of ascorbic acid. In some animals in the sense except primates and guinea pig. Even human being, it doesn't have the mechanism to synthesize the ascorbic acid or the vitamin C. We have to supply on the diet. That means external sources or exogenous sources is the source for the vitamin C or the ascorbic acid. But in some animals, that means except primates, they have their own biological machinery to synthesize ascorbic acid through uronic acid pathway. So this is the connection. These are the three essential components except in some animals which the uronic acid pathway synthesizes. And most distinct feature, that means say most of the carbohydrate metabolic pathways, they use phosphate esters. That means the participation of phosphate esters. But here free sugars and sugar acids will participate. Here free sugars and sugar acids, they participate in the uronic acid pathway. Okay, so in bottom line is saying just simple, it's alternative oxidative pathway for glucose. It involves the synthesis of uronic acid, pentoses, like for example xylulose, and ascorbic acid in case of some animals, say except primates, for example human being. Rest of the animals, they have the ability to synthesize ascorbic acid, what we call vitamin C. At the same time, it involves free sugars and sugar acids, whereas in case of other carbohydrate metabolism, you can say most of the carbohydrate metabolism, they involve phosphate esters. Okay, it's about the basics of uronic acid pathway. Okay, there are 4 essential steps in uronic acid pathway. Number 1, formation of UDP glucuronate. Formation of UDP glucuronate. Next, number 2, conversion of UDP glucuronate to L-gallonate. Number 3, in some animals, synthesis of ascorbic acid. ascorbic acid. Number 4, oxidation of L-gallonate. Okay. The 4 major steps involving in the uronic acid pathway are: number 1, formation of UDP glucuronate. Here UDP means uridine diphosphate. Uridine diphosphate. Okay. Then conversion of UDP glucuronate to L-gallonate. Number 3, in some animals, synthesis of ascorbic acid we have already discussed, except primates. Number 4, oxidation of L-gallonate. Here we have to learn and remember certain more, that means of important sugar compounds and other compounds which we generally come across in other carbohydrate metabolisms like L-gallonate, on the same time UDP glucuronate. So it is very essential with respect to uronic acid pathway that we have to remember these words, particularly their conversions and their sequence, because in examination point of view they may ask you which compound is coming from which compound. It's like X to Y and which enzyme is responsible. I will tell you how these are important, just not only in concept orientation but also in examination point of view. Okay, these are the 4 important steps. Say the formation of UDP glucuronate, the conversion of UDP glucuronate to L-gallonate. Number 3, in some animals ascorbic acid, that means vitamin C will be synthesized. Number 4, oxidation of L-gallonate. Okay, regarding the mechanism of uronic acid pathway, just like we have discussed glycogenesis. Glycogenesis we have discussed. In glycogenesis also, the first compound that gets into the glycogenesis is glucose 6-phosphate. The same here also. Glucose 6-phosphate is a beginner of uronic acid pathway. Say glucose 6-phosphate. Glucose 6-phosphate. Then it converts into glucose 1-phosphate by means of an enzyme phosphoglucomutase. Then glucose 1-phosphate become UDP glucose. By UDP glucose pyrophosphorylase. Here UTP will be utilized and it form inorganic pyrophosphate. Then after this, that means up to UDP glucose, in glycogenesis also up to this UDP glucose, that means that there is a similarity between glycogenesis and uronic acid pathway. Up till UDP glucose, these 2 pathways have similarity. That means a glucose 6-phosphate will be the beginner, it becomes glucose 1-phosphate, then become UDP glucose. Simply by means of UDP glucose pyrophosphorylase. Okay, when UDP will be utilized in the same, just like in the glycogenesis process. But here there is a difference. This UDP glucose will be subjected to, that means catalyzed by enzyme UDP glucose dehydrogenase. UDP glucose dehydrogenase to form UDP glucuronate. UDP glucuronate. Here, as I said, dehydrogenesis. 2NADH to NAD plus will reduce it to 2NADH plus H plus. How UDP glucuronate is formed? In an examination point of view, they may ask, and they may ask which enzyme is responsible. Say UDP glucose dehydrogenase will convert UDP glucose to UDP glucuronate, and here reducing substance, say 2NAD plus become 2NADH plus H plus. This is very important step because it is the first step in uronic acid pathway. As formation of UDP glucuronate. And one more important, this compound has much importance because it is an active form, what we call biologically active form of glucuronate. Because this UDP glucuronate conjugates with bilirubin, steroid hormones, even drugs. Why? Because this conjugation enables them to convert insoluble compounds to soluble compounds, so that it leads to detoxification of drugs. Certain drugs are insoluble, so they have to get soluble. Why? How? Simply, this UDP glucuronate conjugates with X or Y drug, which is generally insoluble, so that it can become detoxified. This is very important point. That is why UDP glucuronate has a lot of significance with respect to detoxification. That means weeding out the unwanted or toxic substances. So UDP glucuronate is found from UDP glucose like this. Then after UDP glucuronate, it will be subjected to glucuronic as D-glucuronate. D means dextrose. It is with respect to stereoisomers, D form, L form. Here UDP glucuronate become D-glucuronate. How? Simply by hydrolysis. That means UDP will be removed. That means UDP will be removed. Glucuronidase is an enzyme responsible for this. Glucuronidase is an enzyme. Glucuronidase is an enzyme responsible for, that means it converts UDP glucuronate to D-glucuronate. Here, how? Hydrolytic reaction. Simply by removing UDP, and glucuronidase is responsible for that. This is very important. Okay. And this D-glucuronate become subjected to L-gluconate. Simply by reducing agents, say NADPH plus H plus equals to NADP plus. That means this reaction is NADP dependent. This reaction is NADPH dependent. NADPH is one of the important highly reducing agent, and this converts D-glucuronate to L-gluconate. In examination they may ask you, how this process will done. Say the D-glucuronate become L-gluconate by reduction, by addition of NADP. That's simply called NADPH dependent chemical reaction, or NADPH dependent biological reaction, which converts D-glucuronate to L-gluconate. This is very important. Okay. And up to this step, this is one path. That means the second step we have discussed, conversion of UDP glucuronate to L-gluconate. Later onwards, we have discussed in some animals ascorbic acid will synthesize. Except primates, the rest of the animals will have the biological machinery to synthesize L, that means L-ascorbic acid. How? Say L-gluconate, which we get from D-glucuronate, is a precursor for the synthesis of ascorbic acid. But not in all. Okay, I will tell you how. Okay, say we'll take two reactions here from here. Okay, so step one. This, in case of one path, okay, for convenience I am writing. This L-gluconate will be subjected to oxidation. Say that means the NAD plus will form NADH plus H plus, so that it form 3 keto L-gluconate. 3 keto L-gluconate, and this 3 keto L-gluconate undergoes decarboxylation. CO2 will be removed out to form L-xylulose. This is very important. That means by decarboxylation, the 3 keto gluconate becomes L-xylulose. Well, I have discussed already. Pentoses will form here. This xylulose like this, okay. Then the xylulose will subjected to reduction simply by involving of, say, just like here, NADPH reduction, NADPH dependent reaction, NADPH plus H plus become NADP plus. So it become xylitol. By means of an enzyme, xylitol dehydrogenase. And the xylitol again it converts into D-xylulose. Simply by oxidation. NAD plus become NADH plus H plus. Then D-xylulose becomes xylulose 5-phosphate. That ultimately leads to HMP, hexose monophosphate shunt. Okay, I will discuss again. Okay, here L-gallonate in one pathway. We'll discuss later. Okay, this L-gallonate in one pathway converts into 3-keto L-gallonate simply by oxidation. How? Say the NAD plus become NADH plus H plus. I told you already. This is an alternate pathway for glucose. That means here reducing substances like NADH plus H plus have to form, and in a sequence of reaction they will get formed. Say they form already here. Say first NAD plus become NADH plus plus. The same here also. When UDP glucose become UDP glucuronate, 2 NADH will form. Here also when L-gallonate becomes 3-keto L-gallonate, 1 NADH will form. So it's about oxidation, so that reducing substances like NADH will form. This is very important point. Here and here. Then the 3-keto gallonate subject to decarboxylation, that means removal of carbon dioxide, so that it will become L-xylulose. And this L-xylulose undergoes same, just like here. That means the reduction reaction that converts D-glucuronate to L-gallonate. Here also L-xylulose become xylitol. That means it's an important intermediate step. It's an essential step because it leads to essential pentosuria. That means a disorder. If xylitol dehydrogenase is actually a rare genetic disorder, I will tell you, if there is no such enzyme, it leads to essential pentosuria. That means the concerned affected person will excrete lot of that means xylulose in urine. L-xylulose should become D-xylulose. Since there is no xylitol dehydrogenase, the L-xylulose will be excreted in the urine. That disorder is called essential pentosuria. And this xylitol dehydrogenase converts L-xylulose to xylitol, and the xylitol is subjected to oxidation. That means one more NADH will form. Say NAD plus NADH plus H plus. So it will become D-xylulose. That means it's an essential intermediate step for conversion of L-xylulose to D-xylulose, and here xylitol is formed in that. During this process catalyzed by the enzyme xylitol dehydrogenase, which is a NADPH dependent. Just like here, it is a second NADPH dependent reaction. The first one is conversion of D-glucuronate to L-glucuronate. In examination they may ask how many NADPH dependent reactions are there in uronic acid. Here for 1, D-glucuronate to L-glucuronate. Number 2, L-xylulose to xylitol and NADPH dependent reactions. Okay, then finally the D-xylulose is formed by oxidation of xylitol, right? Then this D-xylulose become phosphorylation, simply formation of xylulose 5-phosphate. You know, we have discussed about xylulose 5-phosphate in the previous class in hexose monophosphate shunt, and the xylulose 5-phosphate undergoes into hexose monophosphate shunt. That is why we have discussed in the beginning that formation of pentoses is also one of the essential objective of uronic acid pathway. So the pentoses are formed, and this pentose, even in dietary xylulose, after they enter, that means they use this uronic acid pathway to switch over to the other as metabolic pathways like HMP pathway. Say xylulose, they become cellulose 5-phosphate, then HMP pathway, hexose monophosphate pathway. It's like a transitional phase. Just for convenience, I'm saying, okay. It is not exactly the word, for convenience. So xylulose, the dietary xylulose use the uronic acid pathway to become metabolized into other reactions. The same here also. The xylulose 5-phosphate, they enters into hexose monophosphate shunt. Then here L-gluconate, it is a precursor for ascorbic acid. How? Here H2 will be removed, forming L-gallonolactone, and this L-gallonolactone catalyzed by the enzyme L-gallonolactone oxidase that form 2-keto L-gallonolactone, and this 2-keto L-gallonolactone becomes L-ascorbic acid. L-ascorbic acid. This is very important. This enzyme, with respect to second pathway, okay, this is first and this is second. This is second and this is first. In some animals, we have discussed, in case of human beings, there is no enzyme L-gallonolactone oxidase. L-gallonolactone oxidase is essential for the conversion of L-gallonolactone to keto-gallonolactone, which becomes L-ascorbic acid. That means for the conversion of L-gallonate to ascorbic acid, L-ascorbic acid, this L-gallonolactone oxidase is essential. And just like here, xylitol dehydrogenase, here L-gallonolactone oxidase is essential for the conversion of L-gallonate to ascorbic acid, because L-gallonate is a precursor for synthesis of ascorbic acid. Unfortunately, we do not have this enzyme. That is why we have to depend on the dietary. That means exogenous supply of ascorbic acid is essential in human beings, not only just human beings but other primates and even guinea pig as well, because we do not have this enzyme. But the rest of the enzyme, they simply converts L-gallonate, they become first L-gallonolactone, by removing hydrolysis, that means removing dehydrolysis, simply what we call. Then L-gallonolactone oxidase become, if it form, it converts to form 2-keto L-gallonolactone, then it forms ascorbic acid. This is how they should. This is one pathway and this is another pathway. I told you already, the objective of this uronic acid pathway is to synthesize glucuronic acid